It started with a single phone call on a fog-heavy morning in Cassaway County, Missouri. Sheriff Dana Caldwell had just poured her second cup of coffee when dispatch crackled through the silence. Unit 1, we have a report of a vehicle abandoned on Briar Creek Bridge. Caller says it's been running for over an hour. No sign of the driver. Briar Creek Bridge was no stranger to ghost stories and teen dares, but this was different. The engine was still running. When Caldwell arrived, the gray 2019 Honda Accord sat slightly tilted at the edge of the bridge, headlights boring through the dense fog like twin eyes. Inside, the car was spotless, save for a leather-bound journal on the passenger seat and a single, muddy footprint on the rear floorboard. No purse, no phone, no ID, but the registration was under a name familiar to nearly everyone in Cassaway. Elena Morrow, 27, the only daughter of retired Judge Harold Morrow. She had been back in town for just under 6 months after leaving a promising law career in Chicago. Quiet, well-liked, and known for her tireless volunteer work at the local shelter, Elena's disappearance sent tremors through the sleepy town within hours. The search began immediately. Bloodhounds combed the nearby woods. Divers were sent into the freezing depths of the creek. Drones scanned the area. But no sign of Elena, not even a shoe. The journal left in the car added layers of confusion rather than clarity. Pages filled with philosophical musings, lines from obscure poetry, and strange, cryptic notes. One page simply read, "The devil comes softly, disguised as truth." The handwriting, verified as Elena's, grew increasingly erratic toward the end of the journal. Several pages had been torn out. Forensic analysts found faint traces of tears on the margins, actual human tears, absorbed into the paper. 5 days into the investigation, a break came. Not from evidence, but from a person. A man named Cole Renner, 32, walked into the station voluntarily. A former classmate of Elena's, he now worked odd jobs around town. His eyes were sunken, his clothes rumpled, and he looked like he hadn't slept in days. "I need to tell someone what I saw," he said quietly. "Or maybe what I think I saw." Cole told the sheriff he'd been fishing near the bridge the night Elena vanished. Around midnight, he saw headlights pull onto the bridge, followed by what he swore was a second vehicle, an SUV. He heard raised voices, then a woman screaming. He didn't see anyone pushed or taken, just silence. Then the SUV backed up and sped away. "Why didn't you come forward sooner?" Caldwell asked. "I didn't want to believe it. I thought, maybe I imagined it." With Cole's statement, investigators focused on traffic cam footage from a nearby service station that faced the road leading to the bridge. Hours of footage showed dozens of cars, but finally, at 11:56 p.m., a dark SUV, make unclear, drove by. For minutes later, it returned, faster this time. Sheriff Caldwell went public. The town buzzed. Rumors spread faster than facts. That Elena was pregnant and the father was powerful. That Judge Morrow was covering up something big. That Elena had stumbled onto a local drug ring and paid the price. Then came another twist. 6 weeks after the disappearance, a farmer clearing brush near the old Danziger barn, abandoned for over a decade, found a cell phone under a loose floorboard. It was cracked but recoverable. The phone was Elena's. Inside were photos and voice memos. The last voice memo, dated the night she vanished, was only 14 seconds long and chilling. "I think they're watching me again. I saw the black SUV on Maple Street. Same as before. I don't know who to trust anymore, not even my own family." When confronted, Judge Morrow remained stoic. "Elena struggled with anxiety," he said. "She saw threats where there were none." But then the journal was re-examined, and one of the torn-out pages was found, folded and slipped behind the back cover. It read, "Dad says he'll take care of it, but I know what I saw. I know who killed Claire." The name Claire shook the investigation to its core. 10 years prior, Claire Benton, a 17-year-old waitress, had gone missing. Her body was found weeks later in the river. Her case had gone cold after a year. Judge Morrow had presided over her murder trial and controversially dismissed critical evidence due to improper procedure. The man accused, a young deputy named Marshall Dean, had been released. He left town shortly after. Now, with Elena's note, suspicion came roaring back. Investigators reopened the Benton case. It didn't take long to find that Dean had returned to Cassaway County under a new identity. He was the owner of the dark SUV caught on camera the night Elena vanished. And he'd been living in a secluded cabin under the name Mark Rivers, just 10 miles outside of town. A SWAT team descended. The cabin was a nightmare. Walls covered in newspaper clippings, surveillance photos of Elena, and dozens of tapes labeled with dates and names. Elena's name appeared over and over again, but there was no sign of her body. No confirmation she was even dead. In a final tape found deep in the basement, Dean's voice could be heard, shaky and incoherent. She knew. She remembered Claire. She saw the photo on my mantle. I didn't mean to. I swear to God, I didn't mean to. But she wouldn't stop asking questions. I just wanted to scare her. But she fell. I didn't push her. I didn't. The tape cut off abruptly. Forensics later confirmed traces of Elena's blood on the basement stairs. Foul play was no longer in question. But then one final twist. 2 months later, a woman matching Elena's description was caught shoplifting in Taos, New Mexico. When police tried to detain her, she bolted. A week later, a surveillance camera at a bus station in Flagstaff picked her up again. She was thinner, with dyed hair, but facial recognition was nearly conclusive. Elena Mora was alive. Running. But from who? Or from what? To this day, she's never been found. Some say she faked her death to escape a deeper conspiracy. Others believe she's hiding from people still powerful enough to silence her for good. The town of Cassaway moved on. Judge Morrow retired. Marshal Dean was found dead in his jail cell, apparent suicide. The Danziger barn was torn down. But Sheriff Caldwell kept Elena's journal on her desk, flipped open to the line that still haunts her. The devil comes softly, disguised as truth. And every so often, a postcard arrives at the Cassaway Sheriff's office. No return address. No message. Just a photo of a new place. A forest in Oregon. A market in Mexico. A coastal town in Croatia. And in the bottom corner, always in the same handwriting, still watching. Still remembering. They called it the White House on Wren Hollow. Not because it was elegant, because of its rotting white paint, like peeled bone under dead vines, a 2-story husk forgotten by time. It sat on the edge of Westchester County, New York, far from the polished neighborhoods and downtown shops. Locals said the place was cursed. But most forgot about it until October 18, 2022, when 5 bodies were found inside. It began with a 911 call placed at 3:14 a.m. by a neighbor, an elderly man named Gerard Mullen, who reported hearing violent screaming and a woman sobbing for help. The dispatcher stayed on the line for nearly 4 minutes, during which the man swore he heard footsteps pounding down the road. Then nothing. When officers arrived, the house was silent. The front door was ajar. The lights were out. What they found inside would leave even veteran detectives speechless. 5 bodies, 3 adults, 2 children, all arranged in a circle on the hardwood floor of what had once been a dining room. Each had their eyes closed, their hands placed over their chests, and a small white stone resting on their foreheads. Not a drop of blood on the scene. No visible injuries. No signs of struggle. The first forensic report couldn't determine cause of death. Toxicology showed no drugs, no poisons. It was as if their hearts had just stopped. The victims were identified 2 days later as the Marrow family, Daniel and Karen Marrow, both 40, and their children Lila, 10, and Nate, 7. The 5th body was harder to identify at first. Eventually, dental records matched her to Angela Pierce, 29, a live-in nanny from Queens who'd started working for the family only 3 weeks prior. What puzzled authorities even more was the house itself. It hadn't been occupied in over a decade. Records showed the Marrows had moved to Westchester barely a year earlier, renting a townhouse in nearby Scarsdale. There was no record of them purchasing or leasing the Wren Hollow property. And yet here they were, dead inside it. Detective Mason Verrick, a seasoned NYPD homicide specialist transferred to the county in 2019, was assigned to lead the investigation. Verrick was known for solving cases that no one else would touch. He called them the whispering ones. Quiet crimes. No witnesses. No motives. Just silence and corpses. What he uncovered over the next 3 weeks changed everything. First, the nanny. Angela Pierce had no living relatives, and her last known employer in Queens reported that she left suddenly after becoming fixated on something she wouldn't explain. She claimed she'd found a secret that proved the end is already happening. When she didn't show up to pick up her final paycheck, her boss assumed she'd skipped town. Her social media accounts had been wiped. All of them. Every post, every message, every photo. Scrubbed clean. Then there was the house. Built in 1894, the property had a long history of misfortune. In 1923, A fire killed a family of 6. In 1951, 3 teenagers were found hanged in the attic during what was suspected to be an occult ritual. In 1987, a psychologist named Dr. Ira Wilkes purchased it and ran a private behavioral retreat for patients suffering from extreme phobias and psychosis. His license was revoked in 1993 after allegations of patient abuse, illegal drug trials, and mental manipulation. He disappeared the following year without a trace. That same year, the house was boarded up. No one had officially stepped foot inside for almost 30 years. Until the Marrows. But the question remained, why were they there? Vurick returned to the Marrow townhouse in Scarsdale with a warrant. What he found was disturbing. Dozens of notebooks written in Karen Marrow's hand. Pages filled with what appeared to be dreams. Recurring nightmares about the White House, about a man with no face, and about a room where everyone is already dead. Some of the final entries read like confessions. It's calling again. I hear them when it rains. Daniel doesn't believe me. But the kids are seeing it too. I saw her. She was standing over Nate's bed. Angela said it's begun. Angela, the nanny, wasn't just hired help. She was involved in something with Karen. One of the notebooks had this sentence, underlined 5 times. Angela says we must return to the place of origin. Before it's too late. Investigators pulled security footage from the roadways surrounding Wren Hollow. There were only 2 vehicles captured on the night of the incident. The Marrow family's silver SUV and a dark, unregistered van that arrived at 2:07 a.m. and left at 3:21 a.m., just minutes before the police arrived. Vurick issued a countywide alert for the van. A week later, it was found, abandoned in a parking garage in Yonkers. Inside were dozens of items: candles, books on Mesopotamian demonology, handwritten notes about soul resonance, and most chillingly, a detailed sketch of the Wren Hollow house with the words, "Mouth of the Hollow, Gate to the Quiet Man." Fingerprints pulled from the van matched a man named Elias Dunn, age 41, a former cult researcher and conspiracy podcaster who had vanished in 2021 after claiming he was on the verge of uncovering a sacred crime buried under American soil. Authorities now had a suspect, but Dunn was already gone. They tracked him to upstate New York, where he was arrested living off-grid in a shed near the Catskills. At first, Dunn refused to speak. He remained silent for 11 days in custody. Finally, he broke, but not in the way anyone expected. In a 4-hour interview, Dunn explained everything, or tried to. He said the house on Wren Hollow had been awake since 1894, built on the remnants of a pre-colonial sacrificial site used by a breakaway Algonquin sect. He claimed that Dr. Wilkes didn't run therapy retreats, but resonance sessions, trying to tap into a metaphysical space he called the Fold. Dunn said Angela Pierce had once been one of Wilkes' patients, and that she'd been trying to reopen the fold. She believed the Marrows were keys, Dunn said. The right bloodlines, the right sequence. All 5 together in the house at the right time, it was supposed to open. She thought she could speak to the quiet man. When asked who or what the quiet man was, Dunn simply smiled and replied, "He's what comes after belief." Despite a lack of concrete evidence linking him to the deaths, Dunn was charged with conspiracy, trespassing, and unlawful use of a controlled property. But he was never convicted. 2 months before trial, he was found in his cell, dead. Heart stopped. No injuries. Just like the Marrows. That same week, a 6th body was found in the house. During a scheduled demolition of the property, workers discovered a walled-off room in the basement. Inside was a small wooden chair, a cracked mirror, and a mummified corpse, dressed in a tattered suit and bow tie, hands folded, head tilted slightly toward the door. Dental records matched Dr. Ira Wilkes. Missing since 1994. He'd sealed himself inside. The town passed a motion to demolish the house, and Wren Hollow Road was closed permanently. No new developments. No tourism. Just trees and a chain-link fence. The coroner listed the cause of death for all victims as cardiac arrest due to unknown causes. Detective Vurick retired a year later. His final words at the press conference were short and strange. Some houses don't forget. Some doors don't stay shut. And that was it. But every October 18th, exactly at 3:14 a.m., neighbors claim they still hear it. A woman sobbing for help, and footsteps running down the road. They say the church bells of St. Eliza's stopped ringing the day Father Thomas Mason disappeared. August 9th, 2018. A blistering Thursday morning in Silvershade, Pennsylvania. A small, tight-lipped town where everyone knew everyone. and no one ever questioned the church. Father Mason had been the parish priest of St. Eliza's for nearly 30 years. A gentle man with soft eyes and a voice that never rose above a whisper. He was known for remembering everyone's name, visiting the sick without being asked, and delivering homilies that made even atheists pause in thought. No scandals, no accusations, just the sort of man a town quietly relies on. But on that Thursday morning, he vanished. No note, no signs of struggle. His old brown Buick still parked behind the rectory. Breakfast untouched. His Bible on the desk, open to Ecclesiastes 12 verse 14. For God will bring every deed into judgment, including every hidden thing, whether it is good or evil. That verse would haunt the investigation. Sheriff Arnold Greaves was the first to investigate the rectory. A war vet turned cop with a distrust for anything that couldn't be explained in bullets or blood types. The rectory was immaculate, too immaculate. The desk drawers had been cleared out. A filing cabinet had been emptied. Only the Bible remained. There was no sign of forced entry, no evidence of violence. Just a single cassette tape left on the priest's bed, unlabeled, and dusty, as if it had been waiting there for years. Greaves had to search for a cassette player. When he finally played it, what he heard chilled him to the bone. Father Mason's voice, soft, composed, and unsettlingly calm. If you are hearing this, I am likely dead, or I have disappeared by choice. Either way, the truth must be known. I have committed sins not of violence, but of silence. I kept things hidden, buried them, but the dead do not sleep, and the truth does not forget. There are 7 names, 7 confessions, all from one man. He told me everything. Over 13 years, he came every Sunday like clockwork. And every time, he confessed to a different crime. Theft, arson, rape, murder. And I said nothing. I followed the seal of confession. I believed it was sacred. But now, I believe I was protecting evil. His name is Michael Alder, and I believe he will kill again. Greaves nearly dropped the player. Michael Alder had been a pillar of Silvershade for decades. A real estate developer, a donor to local schools, hosted charity auctions, a family man, clean record. But that name, it kept coming up. Quietly. In 2006, a waitress named Lena Marsh was found drowned behind the Silvershade Inn. Official cause, suicide. She had worked at a bar owned by Michael Alder's cousin. In 2010, a house fire killed Janice Kettering, a retired schoolteacher who had been in a legal dispute with Alder's firm. Accidental, ruled the fire marshal. No follow-up. In 2014, a 17-year-old named Isaiah Bell vanished on his way to football practice. Last seen jogging past Alder's gated property. Case went cold in 2 weeks. Father Mason's tape hinted at all of them, and more. 7 crimes, 7 names, and one man who had confessed them all. The sheriff had no legal grounds to pursue a case based on a priest's old tape. The seal of confession wasn't admissible in court, but Greaves couldn't shake the feeling. He reopened the Isaiah Bell case, quietly, and found something no one had caught the first time. Surveillance footage from a traffic cam that showed Isaiah stopping to talk to someone in a black Lincoln SUV. The plate was just barely visible, registered to Michael Alder. Greaves brought him in for questioning. Alder laughed, suave, calm, and terrifyingly confident. "You think a dead priest's bedtime story is going to bring me down?" he said. "You want to dig? Go ahead, but you'd better be sure you like what you find." The sheriff was sure. He kept digging, and it almost cost him everything. 2 nights later, his house was broken into. Nothing stolen, but everything overturned. His dog poisoned. His wife followed on her way to work. A clear message, "Stop." Then the second tape arrived. This one mailed anonymously. Just a cassette in a blank envelope. Father Mason again. "If you've made it this far, you're likely beginning to see the web. But you must understand, Alder was not alone. He is the web. He calls it the chamber. A circle of men in positions of power. Judges, police, doctors, all sworn to secrecy. All with blood on their hands. I heard their names. I remember them. I've written them down. The list is hidden." That was it. Sheriff Greaves searched the rectory again. Tore it apart. Nothing. But an archivist at the church came forward a week later. She said Father Mason had visited the church's crypt 3 days before his disappearance. Said he was checking on the past. That was the only clue Greaves needed. He pried open the marble tomb of an old bishop buried beneath the chapel. Inside the coffin, under layers of bone and cloth, was a sealed envelope. Inside 7 names, all prominent figures in silver shade. And 5 of them were already dead, killed in different ways over the past 10 years. A boating accident, a house fire, a mugging gone wrong. One died of natural causes at 47. But now it looked like something else entirely. There was a pattern. Each man had ties to Alder. Each had helped him get away with something. Each had been slowly eliminated. By whom? Not Father Mason. He was too passive, too afraid. Greaves suspected Angela Maddox, a former DA who vanished from public life in 2015 after a breakdown. She had prosecuted one of Alder's men, only for the case to be thrown out. Rumors swirled that she'd tried to expose the chamber. Now she was off-grid. No address. No digital footprint. Gone. Then, in December 2019, a body was found at the edge of the Pinehurst Reservoir. Father Thomas Mason. Strangled. Hands folded over his chest. Just like he used to sit in the pews. No DNA. No witnesses. Just a third tape in his coat pocket. I was wrong to hide. I was wrong to protect. This will be my final confession. I believe I was led here, to truth. Not to destroy Alder, but to warn others. If you're hearing this, get out. The chamber doesn't bury bodies. It erases them. Michael Alder was never charged. But in 2020, he fled the country under the guise of a tax investigation. Last seen boarding a flight to the Azores. His properties were sold. His name scrubbed from nearly every business he once owned. Sheriff Greaves resigned shortly after. Said in an interview, "There are crimes too big for courtrooms. You fight them in the shadows, or not at all." Today, St. Eliza's stands empty. The bells never rang again. And every now and then, a new tape surfaces. Left in church confessionals across the state. All different. All real. People whisper about the Confessor Network, a secret group inspired by Father Mason's tapes, working to expose the hidden sins of the elite. Their motto, printed on the labels of each cassette: "Every hidden thing shall be revealed." But no one knows who runs it. And no one knows who's next.